I remember she said to me, she was like, never again would I consent to that. She said, this is worse than recovering from my C-sections. And I'm like, I bet. I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 6 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have myself with me today, tonight, actually. I'm recording this in the evening. We are actually getting ready to go out of town. And by the time you hear this, we'll be probably on our way back, honestly. We are going to go visit my grandparents in West Virginia. We do this every 4th of July. It has become a family tradition over the last 6 or 7 years or so. And it's been great. It's been really fun. And I have thankfully 3 of my 4 grandparents still alive. 2 of them are 87 years old, and one of them is 96 years old. So we like to go spend our summer, well, not our whole summer, but a summer trip visiting them and just spending time with them, making memories with them, making sure that my children know them, and making the most of our time that we have left with them. And so we would have just gotten back from a lovely little trip together. Hopefully it was lovely. I guess I'll have to update you on that whenever we get back. But I'm anticipating lots of ice cream and fireworks and pool time and porch time and all the great things that come with that trip. But today I am here to do a third, possibly final, maybe, round of Doula Diaries by request, honestly. So I'm glad that you guys are liking these. But now I'm sort of living in the tension between doing more Doula Diary episodes and then simply having my doula clients come on the podcast. Now, not everyone wants to share their stories, and that's totally fine. But also not everyone wants their stories to be shared, period, whether or not they are sharing them or I am. So, just trying to kind of live in that tension and see if this will be my last one or not. But anyways, you guys did request to hear more Doula Diaries, and so I am trying to come through on that for you. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. Okay, I'm going to start off with, I guess, not a specific story as much as a topic of birth. So having gone to dozens and dozens of births over the years, hopefully one day I can say hundreds, because I feel like that's the next step up. Dozens of births to hundreds of births. I have gotten to be with a lot of different moms and have gotten to listen to their curated labor soundtracks or labor playlists that they have made, things that they've wanted to listen to. And I will say, for the vast majority of women that I have worked with, they have either wanted a worship playlist that they have built that has like all their favorite low-key, like slower, calmer worship songs on it. I would say that's the majority of people. And then probably the second most would be just quiet. Some people who want to labor in the quiet. They just want some peace, quiet, silence. Maybe there's like white noise in the background, but like just nothing specific. And then there are some clients who have wanted to do the Christian hypnobirthing, where that beautiful Australian voice is like talking to them and just like speaking scripture over them and affirmations over them and everything. So I would say that's a more like a general and expected thing that I hear in labors and births that I go to. And usually I'm the one like pressing play on all of that or restarting the playlist or whatever. But I would like to share with you some more interesting soundtracks, playlists, noises, things that I have gotten the chance to listen to in the background at births over the years. I have very specific memory of being at a birth with a client where she wanted show tunes on during her labor. Movie musicals, Broadway musicals, show tunes, like it was fantastic. I am a big fan of that. And it's so funny because for me, when I hear a musical, I'm like, let's go. I'm jamming, I'm dancing in the car, I'm singing. And I don't like picture myself being like calm and serene. But this mama, she was a first-time mom. She was fabulous. She was in the tub, actually, just laboring in the tub. And little did we know she would have her baby in like less than an hour. But she's in the tub, just like chilling, just like arms, she's sitting. She has her arms around the outside of the tub. She's just breathing deeply through contractions. And she has show tunes on. I love it. So I come over to her and just to check in with her. And I just like quietly whisper, because the rest of the room is quiet and it's the middle of the night. And I look at her and I whisper and I'm just like, hey, how are you doing? And she just looks over at me and smiles so big and then starts to like sing the lyrics of the song. And if memory serves me correctly, I'm pretty sure it was Aladdin. So it's some song from Aladdin. Can't remember which one it was. But then like after she like finished the line of the song, she just looked at me and she said, I'm so good. I was like, I'm so glad. This is great. So she's playing Wicked. She's playing Hairspray and I'm just jamming. I mean, I remember Welcome to the 60s coming on and I'm like bebopping my head around and singing and not like singing loudly. I'm not trying to be a distraction, but I mean, it was just a great mood. It was funny because it was like middle of the night and dark and dim and everything else was quiet, but there were show tunes playing. And even though she wasn't like dancing around to them because she was laboring in the tub, she was having herself a good old time. And I'm like, this is my kind of jam. I love this. And while I've never personally had show tunes playing during my labor, I thoroughly enjoyed hers. Another birth I went to, let's see, this was earlier on and I was actually shadowing. I was a shadow doula. So I was there with another doula and I was like kind of in training, and this mom, she put her earbuds in or her headphones and, we were doing like laps around the hall in the hospital, as a lot of first-time moms are familiar with. So we're walking the halls. It's the middle of the night. And you would think that she has on, Christian hypnobirthing or worship music or something like that. Nope. It was like straight up rap from like our middle school days. And I mean, let's see, it was like Nelly, Hot in Here, which was so funny because then like she was getting very warm and sweaty from the labor. And I just couldn't get past the irony of that. But she was like jamming and it was blaring through her headphones. And I knew, like I like putting myself in her shoes, that in her mind, like there is nothing else going on. She's not concerned with anything else around her. She is just like in these songs. And I mean, literally like kind of bebopping her way down the hallway while she's in active labor. And it was awesome. And the other doula and I were walking behind her, like trying not to break out in a full dance the whole time, trying to be respectful of the environment, but we could hear, like the music coming out of her headphones and it was a groove. It was fantastic. So that's the only time I've ever come across that in a labor, but I had a blast. Absolutely loved it. Always up for a good dance party. Also, and this girl, she was on my podcast recently. Last year, I think, shared a birth story. And so if you've listened to every episode, then you'll recognize this. But she wanted to listen to criminal murder mystery CSI stories. It's like podcast style, but it would be like basically like a CSI story, like a real live, like actual, not live, a real true like story that happened in real life, that they're like telling through this podcast. And I've never listened to those before. When I'm listening to podcasts, it's like always birth podcasts or parenting podcasts, Christian podcasts, sermons, things like that. So I've never listened to this. And can I tell you, I was like on the edge of my seat while we're laboring. She's in active labor. We're doing hip squeezes. We're walking the halls. She's going into the bathroom and laboring on the toilet and all the things. And I'm just like on the edge of my seat, like at this story that they're sharing. Content wise, I'm like, I don't know if I want to listen to this in labor, but it was her thing. And I totally respect that. And it was like an ex-husband who murdered his ex-wife or something, but we were trying to figure out who done it. And it was a whole thing. Anyways, it was like a murder mystery. And I was totally engaged into it the whole time. While not being disengaged with mom at all. It was just on in the background. It was fantastic. And then I also had a client recently on the podcast. So if you're a regular listener, you might recognize this, who wanted the TV on the entire time, from like all of the quiet middle of the night, like naturally laboring without an epidural, like getting in the tub, all of those things. She wanted the TV on and like wanted to be able to hear the TV too. And we changed channels a few times, but then later in the day, she did get an epidural and it was on Friends. And Friends was like the only entertainment that my husband and I really consumed the first year or two, almost 2 years of our marriage, because when we first got married, we lived in an apartment and we had no internet and we had no cable, and we didn't even have like an antenna for our TV. That was before Netflix, and that was before, we did have Redbox. That was a thing, if you even know what that is. I feel like there's a whole generation of people who don't even know what Redbox is. But anyways, all we had was an actual like box TV, like tube box TV, big box, and a DVD player. And we played, the only DVDs we had were the entire series of Friends on DVD. So anytime we watched anything, that's what we would watch. And so we had Friends memorized and would talk and friend quotes regularly. And so the fact that it was on all day during this labor, and my client was a fan of Friends as well. And so was the nurse who was with us. And so we'd all just be like joking and laughing at the jokes and whatever was going to come up next. And we knew what was about to happen and quoting the show. And it was really funny. It's not how I spend most of my labors, but again, I enjoyed that. It was fun. We all were able to laugh about it and enjoy it together. So I'm curious, let's see, between worship music or silence or Christian hypnobirthing tracks or gangster rap or show tunes or CSI podcasts or TV shows, what do you guys listen to when you're in labor? Or what did you listen to when you're in labor? Or what are you planning on listening to when you're in labor? Let me know. Very curious about that. I can't wait to tell you guys about, maybe in an intro, my next interesting soundtrack that I get to listen to during a birth. So anyways, fun times. That wasn't really a birth story. It was just a combination of things. Okay. Now I'm actually going to share a birth story with you. So this birth I went to was my very first VBAC I ever went to. And she happened to be a VBA2C. So a vaginal birth after 2 C-sections. And I was a brand new doula. I was like maybe 9 months into the job, and I was like, sweet, let's do this. I didn't know as much back then, obviously, but this client of mine was actually partially the reason why she hired me is because her husband was going to be on deployment. He was going to be gone during her labor. And so during her birth, so she wanted somebody there with her, obviously, so she wasn't alone. And so I had the honor and privilege of attending this birth and was happy to do so. And this particular mom had a history of multiple cervical surgeries as well. So not just her C-sections, but she had also had some D&Cs as well. And so she had a lot of scar tissue around her cervix. So just like a lot going on there. So she had never had a vaginal birth. She had never labored all the way because her first two, I believe, were planned C-sections. So anyways, this was going to be like her first real labor and birth experience, like vaginally. So it was like an on and off all day labor for her, laboring on and off throughout the day. But then that evening around 6:00, her water broke. And so finally contractions started, but they weren't really like getting close together or anything. But again, I, being a new doula back then and not feeling like I had as much, confidence, when her water broke, she went straight in to the hospital. Whereas now I would be like, please don't do that. Like, we've got time. But she went straight in. And of course, because her contractions were not like regulating, they said, okay, time to do Pitocin, of course, because they wanted to make sure that, her contractions would organize and get closer together and all the things. She was handling them pretty well, especially for not having gone through labor before and her cervix, having all that scar tissue on it. But let's see, by this time it's like 1:00 in the morning. She's on Pitocins, she's on fluids. She is hooked up to every single monitor ever, which now I'm looking back, I'm also like, dang, why was she on so much Pitocin? Because she'd had a previous C-section. But again, I was a new doula. And we're doing all the things. We're moving around. We're helping her breathe through them. She's moaning, like all the things. And around 2:00 in the morning, let's see, so she got there shortly after 6. So 2:00 in the morning, she was still like 1 centimeter, like maybe 1.5, 1 in a smidge centimeters. And of course, to a mom who's trying to like labor naturally, and she is exhausted and her water's broken and she's on Pitocin and she's only 1 centimeter. I mean, she's like very discouraged, right? Because she was, her initial goal was to like go as natural as possible so that she could have, the highest success of a vaginal birth. So we're just, disappointed because now she's like moaning, like shaking, nausea, like all the signs of transition. And we're like, dang, like, and she was only 1 centimeter. So an hour later, they come back because she's like, her demeanor is just like looking like she's at the very end. And they check her around 3 a.m. and she's 5 centimeters, which is a significant jump in like an hour, obviously. So we were really grateful. However, it's like on one hand, I applaud this OB she was working with because he was, quote unquote, letting her attempt a vaginal birth after 2 C-sections. So on one hand, I'm like, hooray for this doctor, I guess being in favor of that. But on the other hand, I could tell that he still kind of liked to be in control, and kind of call the shots. And so at 3 a.m., he ordered her an epidural, didn't even ask, didn't even like say, do you want this? Is this something? He said, I'm going to go ahead and order the epidural for you because your labor is finally progressing and you're really tired and you need to get some sleep before you start trying to push this baby out. I need you to have energy to push this baby out. So I need you to go to bed. So I'm going to get you an epidural. And in that moment as the doula, I'm like, what? Like, because of course the mom is so vulnerable, right? And so submissive and in a lot of pain. She's on Pitocin. She's like feeling transition-y. And so she's like, okay. And I'm like, well, in that moment, I'm like, what do I do? Because I'm a new doula. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay. I hope this is really what she wants. So she gets the epidural. And, she does take a little bit of a nap, but not a really great one because, of course, they're coming in all the time. And at 4 a.m., he comes back in. And I'm like, dude, it's only been not even an hour since she's gotten the epidural. And she's still 5 centimeters. Surprise, surprise. And so he leaves her alone for a little bit longer. And we're all just exhausted at this point. We've all been up all night and we're so tired. And I remember like sitting in that dark room feeling like, and there was no place like for me to sleep. I was just sitting in a little chair, like writing and reading. And she was trying to sleep at this point because she had the epidural. But I just remember being so tired. And I think me as the doula, a newer doula, I wasn't used to the all-nighters yet. And it's a lot harder to do an all-nighter as a doula when your client has an epidural because they're laying in the bed quietly trying to sleep. And so everything is like super quiet. It's usually just like the white humming noises of the hospital and their eyes are closed. And so you're not talking with them. And especially because no one else is in the room, right? But like you need to be on alert for like any moment that she needs something. Does she need to drink water? Does she need to be turned? Does she need a position change? Do I need to go get the nurse? Like for anything. So I'm awake. It's honestly a lot easier to be up all night with a mom who you are like talking to and encouraging and giving hip squeezes to and like things where you're like actually interacting with her. And so I'm like sitting there and my head's like nodding. I didn't fall asleep, but I'm just like so tired. And I know that the mom is also so tired. And I feel like I have a lot more stamina now, like 10 years into this. But again, that was my first year. And I think I was just a rookie, I guess is what you would call it. And now I like get my birth face on and get my adrenaline going. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to stay up for 36 hours. I'm going to stay up for 40 hours, however long it takes. But back then I was like, oh man, so tired. So we're defeated, right? She's got a lot of scar tissue that she's trying to work through in her cervix. She's never had a vaginal birth before. Things just like, she ended up getting the epidural. She's on Pitocin, all the things. And the doctor walks in at 5 a.m. and he's coming in every hour. And I'm like, dude, just like he was in at 2 and 3 and 4 and now it's 5. And of course, like the new doula in me, I would have been like, just go away. Like we will let you know when we need you. Like we will let you know when it's time for anything. But I don't know. So he comes in at 5 and I vividly remember bowing my head and just praying to the Lord for a miracle. Because everyone just felt defeat and exhaustion in that room. And I literally just bowed my head and just said, Jesus. Like I whispered it because I wasn't trying to like, I don't know, interrupt anything, but I was just like, Jesus. And in my head, I was saying, Lord, we need a miracle. Like, Lord, give us a miracle. Please. Everyone's exhausted, like something. And he checks her and she was complete. Her cervix had completely dilated in that last like less than an hour. And it was like, woo, praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for that. And I was very, very grateful. He answered that prayer in that moment. It was amazing. So that was the high point of the birth. Because then of course this OB was like, okay, time to start pushing immediately. And I'm kind of like, she didn't feel any pressure yet. She wasn't ready yet. She was still trying to take her nap that kept getting interrupted. Anywho, he was like, okay, time to push. And again, new doula, didn't know that we could say, no, thanks, we're not ready. But seasoned doula would have been like, we're going to labor down. Thank you very much. So anyways, she starts pushing and that was around 5 and 6:21 a.m. we had a little baby girl, but not before this happened. So the doctor, and again, you hear about all this stuff as a doula in training. You hear about it in your courses and your classes and from other, birth stories and stuff. But I was new, right? And so until you actually see it for yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, that is actually true. So she's pushing. Baby is about to crown. Okay. So we can see baby's head. Baby's head is kind of doing the like in and out, trying to get under the pubic bone thing. And he says the classic line, well, if I just make a little cut right here, we can have your baby in the next contraction. Or you could push for another hour. I mean, what? So that is code for, I am a doctor who has also been up all night and I am tired and would like for this to be over. So if I give you an episiotomy, a surgical cut to your perineum, we can get this over with. Oh, so anyways, she, of course, not knowing any better, me being the new doula, she is like, okay. I mean, like, what else are you going to say in that moment? Like, no, I'd like to push for another hour. Thank you. And no, it would not have been another hour when we could see baby, right? It wasn't going to be another hour. But, nonetheless, she said, okay. And he, boom, 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 episiotomy. There she has it. Can't go back now. And so, yeah, her baby came out, I think, within the next contraction or two of that for sure. But man, oh man. Because then, of course, I go to her postpartum visit and what are we talking about but her episiotomy. And I remember she said to me, she was like, never again would I consent to that. She said, this is worse than recovering from my C-sections. And I'm like, I bet. Goodness gracious. Like a big old cut down there. Anyways. So it's like that birth taught me a lot, right? I'm learning a lot as a new doula. One, that you can, in fact, have a vaginal birth after 2 C-sections for sure. But also choose your provider wisely. It was like pros and cons, right? Pros and cons. They were cool with the VB after 2C, but at the same time, he was like checking her every hour, putting her on PIT, getting the epidural for her, not really giving her choice, and then giving her an episiotomy completely unnecessarily. The baby was totally fine, totally healthy. Nothing was wrong with baby. The doctor was just ready to be done. I digress. Okay. So anyways, that's a story for you. Learned a lot in that birth. And you better believe I have never, from that point on, let a client have an episiotomy that was not absolutely necessary. And I believe there's only been 3 total ever. So 3. Okay. Moving on. Okay. The last thing actually is not a story either. It's like a series of things. So I guess we really only had one complete birth story today, but I was looking through all of my notes because I have a notebook that's like my birth story notebook. And then I take notes of everybody's birth. And I have the same notebook. This is like a really big 5-star. Remember 5-star notebooks from high school? It's a really big 5-star notebook. And it is indeed, in fact, from college. And I take all my notes in it. So I have all these birth stories in it, tons of them now. And I was looking through these birth stories to try and like pick, 1 or 2 to share today. And as I'm going through it, I'm noticing a pattern. I would say for the first 2 years worth of stories, it was induction, 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 induction. And it was like, induction due to high blood pressure, induction due to preeclampsia, induction due to being over dates. Dates like how pregnant she was, not like, I just heard that in my head as being over eating 6 dates a day. Anyways, if you're in the birth world, you'll totally get that. But just, gestationally being over 41 weeks or 42 weeks. But induction, like over and over. And then even elective inductions, like of people who were just like, yep, cool, I'm done. Let's do this. And I'm looking at all these induction stories and realizing this is before I required my doula clients, at least my first time mom or first time natural birth, if they're trying to have a unmedicated birth, parents to take my childbirth class. That's also before I was teaching a childbirth class, because I became a doula first and I'm certified to become an educator after the fact. But now I'm looking at like all my stories from the last couple of years. So flip that, to the other side of the bookend. And I think I have like maybe 2 inductions in the last 2 years. And so like a significant decrease in inductions. And honestly, I was still working with a same amount of women, like taking on a very similar amount of births. But I think the biggest difference is the education piece and how well educated these women are. And I apologize genuinely to the women who I worked with the first few years when I was brand new and learning a lot. But I wasn't as direct with my clients. I wasn't as confident in myself yet as a doula. I wasn't as like set in like God's design and God's ways. And not that I wasn't a Christian, because I definitely was, but I also did not make any of my clients take a childbirth class or recommend different books to them or anything like that. I was really just like supporting them through their labors. And whoa, a difference it makes. I have seen firsthand when people are educated walking into this experience, walking into labor and birth. And so now it's like I still am working with the same amount of women, and these are like low risk women. Like these are not like super high risk clients or anything like that. But I think when you are empowered with accurate birth education and like what the OBs are going to say, or what a midwife might say, or what a hospital policy is, or what a birth center policy is, or the statistics of home birth, the statistics of induction, and all those things, like you have tools in your belt that you're ready to use walking into that experience and can make educated decisions and not just like bow to the powers that be of, at the hospital. So I'm like looking at all these and I'm like, yeah, go you, like, Go these moms and dads who took the time to prepare for labor and birth and to educate themselves and to walk in with that knowledge. Of course, all of them also, I instruct them to have open hands of surrender and to walk into it knowing that God's will ultimately is going to unfold here and his will be done. But I do believe that like the choices that we make obviously have certain consequences. And so this is like a revelatory moment for me as a doula and a childbirth educator to see how far I've come in educating my clients or making sure that my clients are educated. Because also, I can't tell you how many first-time moms back in the day who ended up having epidurals, who were not planning, let me tell you, who were not planning on having epidurals, who ended up with them, versus now, how many first-time moms I have who are not planning epidurals and don't get epidurals. It's been almost a 180, which is amazing to think about. And I'm not saying an epidural is a failure. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying when someone has a desire and a plan and they've prepared a certain way to go unmedicated, then they have a much higher chance of that happening. So I'm just here to say that I've noticed in all these births over the year that how well you educate yourself and how prepared you are does make a direct impact, I think, on your experience and outcomes for sure. And let's talk about outcomes for just a second. Outcome does not mean healthy mom, healthy baby, which is what, society at large thinks birth outcomes are. Well, is the mom alive? Is the baby alive? And like, that's all they're concerned about. But that's such a low standard, like why are we setting the bar so low that all we need is a healthy mom and a healthy baby? We want that baby to be thriving. We want that mom to be thriving. We want her to have had a wonderful, enjoyable, even labor experience, and her husband as well, and to make them feel like they were listened to and heard and supported throughout their entire experience. So all that to say, this is why I now require my clients to take my childbirth class. Unless they've been my client before, then they probably already have. So I recommend to other doulas out there as well to have your clients take a really solid childbirth class to get ready for labor and birth. Oftentimes, reading a book or watching birth videos is not sufficient, in my experience, just being able to see that over the years. So I recommend. Speaking of, I have one coming up, end of July. If you are local, even if you're not my doula client, you don't have to be my doula client. I have other doulas clients take my class all the time. I have never had a class of just my clients, ever. So even if you have a different doula, or even if you're not hiring a doula, either, doesn't matter. Taking a childbirth class, this sounds prideful, taking my childbirth class, will only help you and will only help things to be better. So we are starting July 26th, which is a Sunday, and then we will continue to meet every Sunday evening in August for a total of 6 weeks. We meet in Kernersville. Reach out. I'll give you the exact details of location and time and all that. But we would love to have you join us so that you too can get and have the highest chance of having a wonderful birth experience with the birth plan that you want, all knowing that God has the ultimate say. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. We're gonna end it right there. I'm gonna go down and get some water and hopefully hang out with my husband before he falls completely asleep on the couch because he's amazing and he stays up super late doing a lot for our family, and I know he's exhausted. Oh, and happy 4th of July. I meant to say that. Wow. Adding that here right at the end. Happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend celebrating. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week, and remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. Moving on. Oh, man, I need my water, but I'm going to try and suck it up and get through it without my water. Okay.